Hello everyone, welcome back to Gelvin Valley, this wonderful map we've been enjoying in Farming Simulator 15 created by Wild Wes. I'm just coming over here to check out my sheep. I am just stoked at how much wool that I have. Probably the next thing I'm gonna learn is I won't get diddly squat for wool. But I at least have enough sheep that we can garner. You know, that's going to be more than just a trailer load or two. Well, I guess I don't know. There's 10, 20 pallets, maybe. It's coming along. You know, and while I'm here, let me check and make sure that I have enough food for them. Come back in here, 53,000 liters. Yeah, probably when I get through harvest, I need to focus some attention on the ad. I just gotta make sure I keep ahead of them with their grass needs. Anyway, but at the moment, we are still in the middle of our canola harvest. So let me circulate. There's our truck, partially full. We are on field number 18. We're winding down, kind of, sort of. Let me just get the map and see where we're at. We're in the middle of field number 18 right here. Everything south of the road that is in our holdings we have harvested. So we have field number 18, then we have field, oh goodness, I can barely read that, field 23, and whatever the out one is. These over here, you may recall, this may be the last field where I'm able to use the large combine. I've really enjoyed using this machine, but it's kind of come at a price. As you can see, I am out of money and falling. So just trying to keep ahead of my loans, and I'm waiting for the cost or the price of barley to rise. Got a whole bunch of it in there. I want to be strategic as to how I sell canola. So I'm kind of hoping for a great demand. That would be so nice if we just had a great demand kind of just pop up for our canola. But I don't think I'm going to be so fortunate. I need to figure out a way to sell it all within an hour so I can be strategic about the price. I've heard the local place down there that accepts it, all of them, they change their prices every hour on the hour, so I want to be careful with that. You know, I'm just noticing something here that's a reminder to me on how the, let's see, which mod is it? Oh, I can't remember the name of it. But you'll notice I'm putting in tire tracks. You see also kind of over here, there's a section where there are no tire tracks. And I think what it is, the crop destruction part is off when you are in higher mode, which actually is probably a good thing. So anyway, actually this is a great view as we look out across the valley here. We've got all these fields we're going to need to tend to, take care of, rip out. Last time I believe I planted right behind the combine, so I think I no-tilled, so I've tried that alternative. It's a little hard to see, so probably this time here I need to come in with a cultivator and work up the soil, perhaps, or my roller. I don't know, we'll see. I'll have to do something to take care of the soil and get the next crop in. Not sure what that's gonna be, but I'll need to rotate. Probably not canola again, because the price is gonna be destroyed. Hi, George. I am almost at 100%, and and of course I just drove over the crop. So even as I was watching and tried not to, that's ultimately what happened anyhow. Alright, let me snip over to my truck. Come on down here. It's kind of just worked out perfect to... I'm on this steep hill. You would never want to do this in real life, where you have, unless you're Russell, He does this on his saves, I've noticed. Although Russell, in mine, the brakes actually work. It's pretty fun watching his YouTube videos. He has a truck that it was modded into it that the brakes, weren't perfect or whatever. In real life, of course, you would never park it on a hill like this. I wouldn't be messing around here. I'd have to park it sideways. But you know what? In farming sim, the brakes generally always hold, which is a good thing. Alright, let me set this going again, and here we go. We'll continue on around, pull our arm back in. Yeah, I am still missing my hillside combine. It's a little thing, but it was made for places like this. This here, we are obviously on a heavy hillside here, and we would be throwing it out the back of the combine, as it were, versus capturing it in our grain tank. But once again, this is farming sim, so rest assured we are getting all the crop we're entitled to that we planted. Anyway, the past several episodes I've been going on and on and on about trains. I had so much fun down there at Train Mountain, and I'm going to finally get off my train kick here and start talking about something else. And this is fairly fresh news, I think, for our family. I wanted to share about something we're taking on as a family. There was, and we live kind of in the country. Probably most people, if they saw it here, it's kind of a suburban, I don't know what you'd call it. There's a small neighborhood that we have. Each house in it sits on, 1 or 2 acres, maybe 3. And so our home sits on it's a single acre, and the parcel is in with, it's either 15 or 16 acres of farmland, pasture land, if you will. Most of it's pasture, some of it's hayfield. And my father and I and my wife, we own it jointly where we live, and we're at the end kind of the street here, if you will. Oh, slow down. My combine brakes don't work. So we live kind of at the end of the road, and I've always been so grateful for that. I am not a farmer in real life. I would love to be, but that's a hard life, hard to get into if you don't have an inheritance or something to help you jumpstart in there. You really need to know what you're doing, and I obviously don't. I mean, goodness gracious, I can't even keep my finances straight here in a game. So where would I ever get off thinking I could do it in real life, But I do enjoy where we live, being in the country here, and being around agriculture. It does something for the soul, at least for me, in being able to watch the farmers do what they do out in the field. And it's primarily in this area, grass seed and that kind of thing. Occasionally there's some red clover, or maybe it's crimson clover, don't remember which. And on the odd year, there's been some wheat, but primarily grass seed. So that's kind of what we see around here. That's kind of in the farm field to the west and north of the house, if you will. To the east are my other neighbors. Due west, is a pasture for my father's cattle. There's a little bit of woodland. There's a hay pasture, and then south there's mainly woods, and there's a pond and more pasture. And so it has the feel of being fairly rural without really being rural, if that makes sense. And to put it in perspective, when I get up to go to work, which is in town each day, my drive is 4.9 miles to get to my work office. So that's not that far at all, and it isn't 100% in a straight line. as the crow flies, as they say, it's probably, let me see here. What would that be? How much backtracking do I do? Maybe 0.6 miles, so probably 4.3 miles as a crow flies. Well, no, that's not even true either. It's less than 4 miles, because part of it is heading laterally to the south. So the point is, it's not that far away, and yet out here we have, it feels kind of like country. So I appreciate that, and anyway, all that to say, I live next door to my father, and he has a couple properties out here for some of his, cattle and some tree farm stuff that he has. It's not that often another parcel comes up for sale, and recently we had a longtime neighbor, it's just kitty corner from our property here, not even maybe a third of a mile, half a mile at most driving. It's probably 3/4 of a mile as a crow flies, maybe a third. So it's really close by. There was another small property come up, and that is just close by. And with two sons who have some entrepreneurial desire to start businesses, or already have. I think I've mentioned before, one of my sons is a beekeeper, and needing places to store their equipment, to operate out of, some of those kinds of things. There was a property that came up, and our family decided to try to take it on. And it's property is, like they say, they're not making any more dirt. There's a finite amount of space in any location, and so it's, admittedly costly to try to get a property and take it on. So I am feeling quite in debt at the moment. But anyway, we took on this little property. When I say little, we're talking, I think it's just under 11 acres. So we're not talking anything huge here. But the property it's kind of L-shaped, and in the back it has, I better be paying attention to my combine. I'm going to slow it down, so see if I can creep forward. Hey, see, that time I didn't drive over the crop. Alright, so get that out here. Oh, nope, I gotta go the other way to get to the truck. Turn my wheel. Get down over the hill. Love the view. Really cool how you set up this map, OS. I'm just still so impressed every time I come in here. Wonderful job you did, friend. Yeah, I don't think this will be quite enough to fill it. Head over to the combine again. Wait till I'm empty. But as I was saying, it's L-shaped. It has a barn on it. Kind of. As you look at the floor of this barn, it really leaves a lot to be desired. I don't know who they hired to pour the concrete on the floor. I'm not even sure that it's level in there. It looks like it was several pours, and it's like whoever smoothed it off really didn't give a rip, because it's just it's just messy, shall we say. Just messy. Where you expect it to be smooth, it's like someone just grabbed a trowel and said, good enough, leaving all sorts of ribs and ridges and, things that you'd rather not have in there. There's my header going down, good to go. And I think years ago, that the property is fenced, or junky fence. It's kind of run down. It's old. I mean, when the guy put it in, it was a decent fence, I'm sure. He used to run some animals on there. You can still see some hay in the barn. And the barn, by the way, we're not talking a big old red American barn. This is a single story, concrete floor and the whole thing. Kind of 3 bays, and one of the bays was used to kind of hold hay, I think, for the animals. There's still some old hay still on the floor. So I don't know how long ago it was that he had animals. What I will say is he had a lean-to kind of on the outside of the barn to feed the cattle, and then he cut holes in the tin work of the barn that he could chuck the hay through, and he built a manger kind of on the other side. It's an exterior manger, if you will, that's just under the overhang of the lean-to. Problem is, that's kind of the south side of the barn, so in the winter, I'm anticipating this is where a lot of water and rain will blow into the interior, because there's no window, there's no door, there's no way to shut it off. And it is kind of curious that he had his cattle, eat their feed kind of with that southern exposure, but I guess it would have worked. Who am I to tell him or criticize how he was doing it? But I started saying I don't know how long ago he had animals in there, and the reason being this, really this whole property could practically be called a briar patch. It's just full of briars everywhere you look. And so that's been the primary task, that we've worked on so far as a family, is trying to get rid of the briars. So in this lean-to, and a lean-to to a building oftentimes doesn't have a floor in it. It's just, I think he used some kind of pebbled gravel down there in dirt where the manger was. It was a place for the cattle to come in. Well, briars just kind of took over the whole area. You can walk through there now, now that we've kind of cleaned it out. But, it takes time for briars to grow, and who knows how long it was growing there, just kind of filling up his lean-to, so the cattle would ordinarily kind of keep all that clean, just kind of on their own, stomping it out and what have you. So it's obviously been several years since cattle were ever fed off of a place. Like I say, a lot of the fences are run down. I don't think they can hold cattle regardless. So I'm pretty sure the past few years he had a hay crop pulled off the place, but other than that, there really hasn't been any agriculture activity taking place. So there's, like I say, a barn there. There's one other outbuilding that consists kind of a pump house, where they have the well access. I think it's a 55 to 65 foot well, so not too deep. Don't really have a fancy pump. I think it's 10 gallons per minute. I mean, so we're talking pretty limited. It isn't like we're going to be irrigating the place or whatever. And adjacent to the pump house is another, it looks like it isn't a greenhouse per se, but I think the couple that lived there, the neighbor, years ago, the wife enjoyed gardening, and so in this area, I mean, you can still smell potting soil, and there's old pots and everything in there that she was using, and it's just a mess. I mean, I don't know if how I'm describing it conveys it. Not only on the briars grown up, they left behind just a ton of junk, if you will. And then there is the house, the so-called house, if you will. One of the most cobbled up things I think I've ever encountered. And what the fella did is, I think years ago, he had a single wide mobile home, and he must have put one of them on the property. And I've seen other people do this before, and I'm not sure entirely why, where they bring in a mobile wide and they choose to build a roof over the top of the mobile home. And whether you get a single or double wide, a lot of times they got their own roof on it, and you can re-roof them but for whatever reason, some people choose to build a structure that has a roof over the top of them. Maybe with the intent, that someday if they wanted, they could get rid of the single wide, just pull it out and stick a new one under there and still keep the same roof. I suppose that'd be one way to keep your investment. I really don't know. But that's what he did, and then he did something even more, which is he built part of a house, I guess you would call it, against the one side of his single wide. It's just an interesting choice, that someone would do, and hey, I get it. I mean, I'm not wealthy by any stretch of the imagination, so finances are always going to be tight, and building costs are just horrifically expensive. So, maybe if I was in his shoes, I would have done the same thing. You got a single wide already, you're already living in it, and you have just enough money to remodel and build a few other rooms kind of off to the side. Maybe he always intended that he would someday get rid of the single wide under there and finish it off and turn it into a proper house. I really don't know. He's long passed away now, so he isn't here to ask as to what his dream was. But yeah, so he built into it. So it's kind of weird. You go into the house and the front door and it looks normal. Actually, the whole thing looks kind of like a normal house because he put siding around it all. But in the middle of it, or on the one edge of it rather, is he's got this single wide in there. So it's just kind of a curious way that he set it up. But built into the side, he put a pretty good sized kitchen and I think a master bedroom, and then I'm not paying attention. And then kind of a living area that has a kind of a cool wood stove. And that's kind of it. From the outside, it kind of looks like a house. I guess you could call it that. But it really, like they always say, you can't judge a book by the cover. And, well, this is kind of something similar. You look at the outside and you really don't know what exactly you're looking at. And so this neighbor lived there. I think his wife passed many, many years ago, maybe even a decade ago. So he continued living here. I think he had someone come live with him, a caretaker type. So otherwise he's pretty well alone. And over time, I think he just lost his desire to take care of the property the way it should. The briars started coming, and I get it. I mean, those things are nasty to tangle with. And, when you become elderly, less able to go out and work and do the things you'd like to do, the briars just kind of, I can't remember which direction to go, just started taking things over. And so now they're kind of the problem that they are. But so what is that? 3 buildings. It's got a well. Oh, but on the house. Let me go back to that for a moment. The single wide that is in there, I think it's either 1970s or 1960s vintage. So, I mean, you run the math on that, and it is very, very old. Most of us, we're used to, when it comes to mobile type things, we can call it up in, what do they call it? The Kelley Blue Book for cars and that kind of thing. This has no value. Matter of fact, it's negative value because you basically need to, put a bomb in the middle of it and start over. And in there, kind of in later years, I mean, it's kind of gross to say this, but as you walk around in there, there's the smell of urine, and whether it's human or animal, I couldn't tell. But you go in there, it's kind of got a funny odor in there. We're not even sure if it's even habitable. And as a family, we're trying to figure out kind of what to do with it. I mean, our funds are limited. Like I say, so we got to figure out which is the most cost efficient. Do we try to work, with what we have? I'd like to get the single wide out of there, but then that would mean we'd have to build onto the house, and construction is so expensive. It's just, I can't really afford, to just build a brand new house and make a dandy nice house over there. It's terribly expensive. I'm still paying for the house that we got, and what we have is nothing fancy either, so, by the way. So we're going to have to figure it out as a family how to do it. But the longer we've been there, the more that I think we probably just will have to call one of those companies that will come tear it down, and we just start over. And sometimes the fire department will do some practice runs or whatever. I think you could donate it to them, and they will basically burn the house down for you, and in the meantime they will use it as a practice or schooling opportunity for their guys, if you will. So there may be something we can do there with that. But suffice it to say, the house is in such a condition that I can't even get it insured. So that just gives you some idea of some of the problems, that it has. And when I say problems, I mean, they're just, I mentioned one of them. Another is there's no furnace, and the furnace that is in there doesn't work. Actually, there might even be two furnaces. I mean, there's a heat pump over there. I don't think that works either. There's the master bathroom, doesn't even have a shower in it. It's cold water only. For some reason, they never plumbed hot water over there. It's all the old galvanized pipes. I don't know if you've ever dealt with galvanized pipes, but they have this tendency to clog up over time. And some of them I was seeing out in the barn. It's just really short-sighted and unfortunate when people do this. They took water apparently to the barn because, of course, the cattle would need it, but they concreted the pipes, these galvanized pipes, or they embedded them right into the very concrete. So, that isn't really helpful, because as those pipes fill up, you basically have a worthless pipe in there you can't do anything with, and you got to start over. So, and in the meantime, you leave this old pipe, kind of a bit of corruption, if you will, sitting in the concrete, and anyway, so there's stuff all over kind of like that. I think the septic system has some issues, so we've got our work cut out for us, and kind of some challenges ahead to figure out, what to do with all of this. Now, as a family, I mean, this whole project kind of closed in the fall here. This is in October, so I record this at the moment. So we're running out of here in the northern hemisphere. We're headed into, we're in fall proper. We're headed into winter and the rainy season that we'll have here. So we're doing what we can. I mean, right now we're kind of in the middle of a week and a half, 2 weeks of solid rain. But just before this, we had several nice days. As the saying goes, we've been trying to make hay while the sun shines, as it were. Not literally, of course, but I got out of my accountant's chair and started building some calluses on my hands. We've been working on these briars. They're just everywhere, getting them eradicated from the barns, away from the fences, and it's amazing. We've put in some time and elbow grease on it. I believe they would call this sweat equity, where you put in time and muscle effort to try to make a decent property out of something that you have. And so we've just been working together as a family, trying to take care of the briars primarily. And I mentioned kind of at the beginning, the former owner was one, he passed away. So went to his son. His son cleaned up part of the property, if you will. There was actually a lot more junk here than was left. But I think really the only motivation he had to clean the property up kind of as it was is, he was trying to sell anything of value that may have been here. And of course, I mean, that's just his prerogative. But once he got rid of anything of value, there's plenty of things left that really have no value at all. And when I say no value, I mean these are things like old paint cans, and I mean, who knows what's in some of these buckets and cans and things sitting out there. There's just scads of them. And I mean, there could be some toxic stuff in there. And so we got to figure out how to properly dispose of all this. There's, all these briars that I mentioned. Every single briar patch has a treat inside. You go in the area, you start pulling the briars out. Lo and behold, in the middle of the briar patch is something. My son found an aluminum ladder. Actually, that was a good find. I think we're gonna keep the ladder. So I mean, that's a pretty good thing. Actually, you know what? I don't want to leave it pointing downhill. I'm gonna turn sideways here as I kind of do that. Get this out. I'm gonna turn it off. I'm gonna go to my truck. This time I'm gonna press the right button. Oh, nope. I guess here we go. This is the one I needed. Where did I park that thing? Oh, it's kind of down over there. Alright, let me head on down around. But yeah, every briar patch has something in there. There's old wooden feeders, agricultural equipment. Sometimes there's metal in there. So we kind of got to be careful as we tackle the briars and everything. And there's just, oh, that wasn't good driving now. There's things to deal with in there. So at some point, I want to rent one of those huge drop boxes, where the trash company or whatever will come and bring you a box. You fill it up and they'll haul it away. I think my wife looked into it and she told me they cost something like $700 for 4 days. So I want to make sure we find all of the treats in every briar patch, so we identify what all the trash is before we get one of those in here. So yeah, so we're kind of having an adventure as a family, working together and seeing if we can do something with this property and hopefully create a place where we can run some business out of, or my sons rather, and maybe one of them will even choose to live there eventually once we get the house figured out and finally get it insured. So, whoops. Anyway, we are still on good old Gelvin Valley. I love it in here and having a ball still harvesting the field of canola. Thank you so much for coming along to listen to me jabber away. I'm excited for this thing as a family. Who knows? Maybe I'll end up working so hard on the ad I won't even have time for these videos, and I'll spare you all the further annoyance of them. But you all have a wonderful day. We'll sign off for now. I will see you on the next one. Goodbye.